Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Lost Art Podcast, the podcast that is giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Victor Ney, not Andrew Cox, and more on that later. Today we have a veteran story. But before we get into the episode, are enjoying the podcast, then go to the Lost Art website. That's the lostartpodbean.com. Go to the website, check it out, click on some stuff, do the stuffy stuff, buy some merchandise, and help spread the word. You can also check us out on YouTube at The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Be sure to smash the like button, hit and follow, subscribe, and all that chuppy stuff for social media. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast to tell your veteran story, then email Andrew Cox directly at thelostartwithandrewcox@gmail.com. To all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in and continuing to listen to us get our veteran stories out for all to hear. Now, we have a very special guest on, which is why I am hosting.
So I was in my third cycle. I was starting to figure things out. I was raising hell. The whole platoon hated me. We won an honor platoon. But that cycle is when Sergeant Major told me that I was going to the swim tank. And that Sergeant Major happened to be Mark O'Loughlin. So he sends me to the swim tank, which ended up being great. I was the staff NCOIC of the swim tank, which was cool. A lot of fun there. Got to see a lot of craziness. Recruits almost drowning. Having a rough time. One kid had a seizure in the pool. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff like that would happen. That happened whenever I was in my other cycles too. One of the several recruits had seizures. Like one had it on a obstacle course, which was pretty crazy. That was after I got back from the swim tank when that one happened. But yeah, he had the seizure, and I walked up, and everyone's freaking out, and I was like, they were like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And I was like, "Don't do anything. He's having a seizure. You just got to let him seize out." So we let him do that, and we had gotten a new sergeant major at that point, and he was very impressed because he was watching. He's very impressed at my calmness in the situation, and he's like, "You should teach that." And I'm like, "Well, I kind of do teach that. I'm a MRQuIS, a Marine Corps instructor, water survival. That's my job to teach that." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I do." The swim tank was cool because I was not working ridiculous hours, and I was able to actually get some time off and rest and relax. That's where I went for my extra time. Working at the swim tank, most everyone worked from like, I don't know, 08 to 12, because the recruits were done by then. Unless we had like a MRQuIS class or something like that on deck. But since I was a staff in COIC, I had to hang out a little bit longer. But that was okay. It was no big deal. I just had to go to meetings and that type of stuff. So it wasn't super stressful or anything. I didn't have recruits. But then I ended up going back to the training companies, and they sent me back as a senior. And that was because Sergeant Major O'Loughlin wanted me to go back as a senior. I was a gunny at this point, so I'd pinned on gunny. And so I got to go back and be a senior, which was really cool. And then I did 2 senior cycles and had a blast doing the 2 senior cycles. I did not treat my drill instructors the way I was treated. I treated them with respect, held them accountable, and trained recruits. And it was actually a blast. It was my 2 favorite cycles that I did. Everyone on the team worked well together. It was a good learning experience. I did forget a couple of stories in there, though. One I wanted to tell you was the recruit that died and we brought back, or as my wife says, the recruit we killed and brought back. So we were on that run, and I was driving the cart, and he was struggling during the run, and I'd yell at him, and I'd get in the cart and drive behind him. I yell at him, and he was behind everybody. And finally, the first sergeant's like, just put him in the cart, and we'll figure it out when we get back. So I put him in the back of the cart. We're driving around, and he would slump over, and I'd yell at him. He'd sit up. He'd slump over. I'd yell at him. He'd sit up. And that happened all the way around. And then one of my buddies, the cones were left out. So I was a junior drill instructor. So we had to pick up the cones and all the stuff after the events. And he's like, hey, let's pick up the cones now since you have the cart, and we'll put them in there. And we're like, oh, okay, sounds good. So we go to move the recruit over and have him sit on the other side of the cart so we could throw the cones in easy. And he wouldn't move. He was like he wasn't listening to us. And then all of a sudden, you see him go, "Urgh," and he just froze like that. And we were like, oh no. So I reached down and grabbed my phone. I'm calling 911 because I'm like, this isn't normal. And my buddy, he's like, he's faking. And he did a sternum rub. And the kid didn't move. And I'm like, dude, he ain't faking. He's like, no, he's still faking his sternum rub. And no, he didn't move. So he put him in, laid him down, got him out, laid him down. And my buddy starts the whole thing that you're supposed to do. Are you all right? Are you okay? Sternum rub. So it's the third sternum rub he's given this kid. And still obviously did not respond. And what was it? He, at that point, you have to point, you say, call 911. And I'm like, I'm on it. I got the phone. And he's like, he looks around. It's just me and him. And he's like, you post road cards pointing at me. And I'm like, dude, it's me and you. I think this is it. And he's like, you get an AED kit. And I'm like, I got it, man. I'll figure it out. So I started running to one of the buildings to find an AED kit, and somebody had driven up. And I'm like, I waved him down. I'm like, hey, I need you to be a road guard or whatever. We have a recruit down. And he goes, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know. He's down. My buddy's giving him CPR right now. And he's like, oh, well, I'm an EMT. And I'm like, well, go help, man. So I ran over and went in and to dental and grabbed the AED kit. I went in. I'm like, where's the AED kit? And they're like, it's over there. What's going on? And I was like, I got a recruit down. So I took off and I run back, and my buddy, he's doing CPR. So I get down, throw the AED kit on him, right? And then we're like, okay, let's check it. And of course, you had to shock him. It shocks him or whatever. And I'm like, dude, nobody knows we're here. And I'm on my cell phone talking to somebody, and you're doing that. I got to go get the first sergeant. So I jump in the cart and I haul ass down. I see the first sergeant. I'm yelling at him, trying to wave him down. And he gets in the cart and he's like, what's going on? And I explained it to him. We get back. So by the time we make it back, all of dental is like all the doctors and the technicians and stuff are surrounded my buddy giving CPR. And the head dentist is like, this is textbook CPR. It's exactly what you're supposed. He's over there giving a class to his people on how to do it. And my buddy over there's dying, he's like, oh my God, he had gone through 5 cycles, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 5 cycles of compressions. They had shocked him 3 times. And still the ambulance hasn't shown up yet. I've been on the phone with him the whole time. I'm like, where are you? You need to get here, whatever. And so finally it comes around the corner, and right as it starts to pull up, the kid like takes a deep breath and is like, and then we all just stopped and just looked at each other like, okay. And so the EMT comes over, we tell him everything that happened. They take him and haul him off. And of course, we were supposed to be with the recruits because we were junior drill instructors. So by the time we made it to them, they had already finished the PFT and they were going back. So of course my senior drill instructor screamed at me because, I'm the junior guy. So okay, fine, whatever. I jumped on the recruits, took them back, was getting them changed over. And then somebody come running in and was like, hey, the company commander and first sergeant want to see you right now. And I'm like, oh no, this kid died. I'm like, oh. So I go in, I'm like, hey, company commander and first sergeant want to see me. And he starts yelling, what'd you do? And this and that. And I'm like, and I just turned around and took off. Right. And I get down there and go in, and it was me and my buddy. And I go in, the company commander's like, hey, have a seat, fellas. So let's go ahead and sit down. And I'm like, yeah, it's over. That's it. My career's done. And so I sit down, and and he's like, well, tell us what happened from the beginning. And I'm like, okay. So I start explaining everything that happened and everything. Get to the very end of the story, and he goes, well, you guys did a fantastic job. We're really proud of you. And da 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 da. He's gonna live. He's at the hospital, you know. And at that point, it was just like, oh, thank God, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, go to prison or something. So yeah, that was a fun experience. And then the other one was whenever I was my third cycle graduating, and we're on the parade field. This is for graduation. My brother-in-law Judd and his wife Kelly was here, right? And Judd was a colonel in the army, so he was going to be there to be the promoting officer or whatever, right? And so I'm at the end of the platoon. I'm the junior guy. So what am I? I'm telling Charlie at the end of the platoon for the pass and review. And it comes time, pass and review, right face. And we all face to the right. And one of my recruits way up at the front falls down. And now I'll tell you the story from my brother-in-law's point of view. Uh, he said he looked, and I took 3 steps, and I'm standing over this kid. And he said, you looked at him for a second, then you reared back and just slapped the shit out of him. And he didn't move. So you reared back and slapped the shit out of him again. And all of a sudden you see, you point up and the kid jumps up to, you know, and then you point to the back of the parade deck, and then he takes off. And he said, then you took 3 steps and you were in the back of the platoon. And he said, each time that I slapped the recruit, the audience went like that. And I was like, ooh. So we finished the graduation, recruits are dismissed. And I see one of the drill masters who I knew, and I walked up to him. He's like, man, did you see that drill instructor slap the crap out of that recruit? And I go, maybe I did. And he's like, oh man, yeah, everybody is pissed off. Like I think the CG is really pissed. And this was the day I'm getting promoted, right, to gunny. And I'm like, oh no. So I'm like, we got to do this promotion like right now. So I go and hey, we get everybody together. I'm like, we got to do this now, or I may not, you know, I'll get demoted to staff sergeant instead of sergeant, right? So I'm like, we got to make this happen. And so I did the promotion, and nothing came of it. So you know, all was good. That ends good, I suppose. But yeah, that was some of my drill instructor good and bad moments, I guess. And then after that, I got orders to 2nd Marine Division as the drum major. So I went out there, and that was a blast. Had a good time. Everyone talks bad about Camp Lejeune, but I enjoyed it. It was a good time. We got to do a lot of cool gigs. Went to the Kentucky Derby and played there. That was neat. We got to go to France and play in Paris, and then the place where Napoleon is buried. We played there. There's a hospital behind that. It's like where all their veterans and stuff go. We played at that hospital. It was really neat. And then of course we went to Belleau Wood and played there. That was cool. Of course, you got to do that with me later. But that was the first time a Fleet Marine band got to go do that. And man, what a pain in the butt to get us over there. Holy cow. It was like almost an act of God to be able to get us over there. It took forever. But yeah, those were some of the cool experiences I had there. Then from there, I got orders to the School of Music to be the drum major instructor. And that was a lot of fun. Pain in the butt, but fun. I enjoyed teaching the recruits and just having fun and being silly or whatever. You know, it was a good time. And then I got selected to Mass Sergeant, went to 1st Marine Division back there. So I did the senior enlisted thing for a year, and then got told, hey, you're going to be the band officer. And I was like, okay, I can't conduct, and we don't have an enlisted conductor. So I don't have anybody to take that over. So that's when you came into play. And I was like, who is available to come up here? And luckily you were able to come up, which was fantastic to have you up there and just play and just have a good time for the next year. You and Van came in eventually, and man, we just had a ball. We got to go to Belleau Wood. That was a lot of fun. Me and you got to march the Tournament of Roses parade, where I was marching in the officer spot. You were marching in the senior enlisted spot. That was super cool. and we made everybody in the right flank have a mustache. And you had one, I had one, the drum major had one, and I'm pretty sure the majority of the band field was ticked off at us for it, but I didn't care. Like, that's what you get for putting me in charge.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so, but yeah, I had a blast, learned a lot there. Did fitness reports, which, by the way, I did. There's a reason I wasn't an officer, and that's it. Fitness reports, pain in the butt. But it was a good experience. The chief of staff, give a shout out to him, Ted Nugent. I'm sorry, Colonel Nugent. Fantastic dude. Learned a lot from him. Then got selected for Master Guns. They sent me down to Miramar, which I was supposed to go to Hawaii, but Master Guns Trenholm took those orders. I went to down to. I'm kidding. He took them later, but I went down to Miramar, which you have been there. What, 3 times, right?
3 times, total of 8 years.
Yeah. That's a long time at Miramar. Well, I spent a total of 7 months at Miramar during COVID. So we didn't do much of anything other than they did recordings and posted videos online. But I was a superstar. If you recall, I got to do the rap, the Dr. Seuss rap. Was it Green Eggs and Ham? I think is what it was. Yeah, and that went viral, man. That thing went I mean, it was so many views, people loving that thing left and right. I remember going to medical one day, and I'm walking in and I see some lieutenant, and he's kind of walking, and we're coming from different directions, but we're going to the front door of medical, and this dude is eyeballing me, man. He's just like, he mean mugging me, man. And I'm like, if this dude thinks I'm saluting him from way back here, he's high on crack. Like, there's no way. Like, if he says something to me, I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm walking up there, whatever, and we finally get close enough. I pop a salute. I say, good morning, sir, whatever. And he gets, are you him? And I'm like, what? Are you him? Him who? What are you talking about? And he's like, the Marine that rapped the Dr. Seuss thing. Really? Yeah, I'm that guy. And he's like, oh my God, my family loves that. Da, 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 da. But shortly after that, we got a call from the Pentagon that said, you need to take that down right now, or we're going to get sued. So we took it down, or they did. I didn't. They took it down. Yeah, I know. And then, and then of course, I got orders to the School of Music, which, excuse me, which of course is where I finished out my career. And yeah, there was some investigations and good times there, which I I don't recommend. And I signed a NIPLOC right before retirement, which was fantastic. Commanding general. Yeah, it was a good time. Good time for sure. Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell. And now here we are. We're doing podcasts.
Okay. All right. So does that round out memorable experiences then?
I think so.
All right. Here we go. Question number 5 then. How did your military service change you as a person? In what ways did it shape your values and outlook on life?
How did it change me as a person? I think I'm more confident now. I speak my mind a little bit more than I did previously. I think that it's given me a sense of purpose and a camaraderie that I would not have had previously, not to this extent at least, and has given me that new perspective on life, if you will. And it has given my family tons of stuff. When you talk about, the benefits that we've had, the travel that we've had, those types of things has been fantastic. So I can't complain at all on any of that. Yeah, so that's the change. What was the second part?
In what ways did it shape your values and outlook on life?
All right, it shaped my values. Well, you get instituted with the core values, honor, courage, commitment, and that really kind of molds you and changes how you think about things and what you do. And I really accepted those. But it's given me a different outlook in a sense of what our military members go through, what they've done, and an appreciation for that. Which is kind of why, I started the podcast here, is to have people tell their stories because they get lost. And so that's kind of where all that came from. But yeah, it's given me a completely new outlook on life and veteran service.
Okay. What are some of the most challenging aspects of military life for you, and how did you cope with them?
Challenges of what?
What were some of the most challenging aspects of military life, and how did you cope with them?
Most challenging aspects, I would say, one is separation from family. That's always tough. Leadership aspects, when it comes to wanting the Marines to do well and those types of things. Stop it, dog. Sorry. Leadership aspects, trying to get Marines to do things and that they don't want to do or whatever, but it's very difficult at times. So learning those types of things, that's very important, and things that I learned. What else? I'm getting sidetracked like it's cool. My dogs are going nuts. They're fighting. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. What else?
Okay. Can you share a story about a comrade or a leader who had a significant influence on you during your service?
Just one?
Or more than one.
Well, I think back, first band, when you look at Gunny Beeman, he had a huge impact on me, taught me how to actually learn my craft, if you will, like basically forced me to play jazz drumming, which I didn't really know how to do previously. And he kind of forced that on me and showed me, hey, you need to practice and go do your thing. You look forward, there's been, oh my God, everywhere. There's leaders everywhere. In Okinawa, I had a platoon sergeant out there that I learned a crap ton of stuff from. It just grew so much while I was out there. Of course, Chuck Eddie Owens, he had a huge impact on me, going back all the way to the School of Music at the very beginning, and then up through 29 Palms, when we were out there together. He is a fantastic guy. Learned a lot from him. A Boatwright is a big name. I learned a ton from him, especially when it comes to making sure that you're keeping track of things in a calendar and those types of things. He used to catch me constantly when I first showed up to Lejeune, and I never understood, how does he remember all of the things that is going on? And he remembered it for everybody. So I had to go to him and humble myself and say, show me, wise one, because I don't get it. And he's like, oh, it's super easy. It's the Franklin calendar. And then he started explaining it to me, and I'm like, oh, okay. So then I started using it. So that changed a complete outlook on how to do things in the Marine Corps. I thought I was good before. I was not. I was garbage. I learned. And then I started catching him on stuff, which was pretty cool. But yeah, he was a great Influence. Of course, you can't forget Jack Davis. He's been there in 3 different bands for me, band officer. He especially this last go around at the School of Music as I was getting ready to retire. We lived through some crazy times together, and he kept me sane. That was good. I'll say you even, when you look at leaders in the Marine Corps, you taught me all kinds of stuff, and whether I was senior to you or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can learn from anybody. So you taught me all kinds of stuff. Let's see. I'm going to forget all kinds of people.
We can move on so they don't get offended.
Well, when I deploy, I'll mention a couple more. Trenholm was a big one. He had a big influence on me. McNanny, he was another one, had a big influence on me. Staff Sergeant Payton saved my life. Good Lord, I got to mention him, right? There's so many out there. It's kind of hard to pinpoint everybody, but yeah, tons and tons of great leaders.
Okay. How did you stay connected with your loved ones during separations?
Hmm. Well, things are different now than they used to be a little bit. Even when I deployed, I wouldn't talk to Carlene, but maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, because I found that if I talked to her regularly, that the if she had problems at home, she would start talking about them, and then me being a fixer, I would want to fix it, and that creates problems and stress, right? Because I can't fix it because I was deployed. So that was one thing that I did. Now, it sucked because I couldn't communicate as much, but we did email back and forth and stuff like that as well. Uh, but that's difficult. Nowadays, you have phones, you have all that stuff that you can do. So it makes things a little bit easier as you're separated. But still, nothing's better than face to face. And then, an understanding spouse is very helpful in that. Luckily, I really haven't been separated from my kids because I had kids later in life. So I didn't really have to deal with that. I mean, you had to deal with that when you deployed. So I can't imagine, it's one thing with a spouse. It's a completely other thing with a child. That would be difficult for me, I think. But yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We got two questions left. What was your transition like from military to civilian life, and what challenges did you encounter during that process?
Uh, I would say the transition wasn't that bad, like in the big scheme of life, I suppose. The biggest issues that, or not issues, the biggest hurdles, I guess, would be the VA medical appointments and making sure you go and do those and trying to get all your paperwork squared away and those types of things for retirement to make sure that I'm set up for success once I got out. Plus, my family is set up for success. That would probably be the hardest part. I wasn't planning on getting a job, so I didn't really worry about that aspect of things where many people have to worry about finding a job and doing different things. I didn't have that problem. I kind of started the podcast before I got out, and I was like, well, this is cool. And, I just keep doing this and see where it goes. So, maybe someday we'll be sponsored and, it'll work itself out. But, either way, doesn't matter. But the transition personally for me wasn't too bad. Um, Not to mention, as the senior enlisted at the schoolhouse, it's, my last duty station, what I wouldn't say other than being under investigation wasn't real stressful. Uh, it's not that I was doing a lot of stuff. I was just kind of overseeing a lot of stuff. And it's not like in a band where you have to oversee operations. You got to oversee, like, there's a lot of stuff that goes behind it. There wasn't so much at the schoolhouse, plus I had, Jack was there to, cover down on anything or whatever, so transition wasn't too bad. He let me do what I needed to do. So it was good.
Okay. Last question. Looking back on your service, what are you most proud of, and what did you wish people knew about the experience of veterans?
Ooh, what am I most proud of? I'll be honest. I don't know if I'm like an accomplishment of me, right? I would say I get the most joy out of seeing Marines that I have been with and mentored and guided or whatever. Their successes are very impactful for me. Um, you know, that those are the things that kept me going. Being able to see others and being able to be that mentor and help them through things and stuff like that. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. But for me personally, the biggest thing that I would be proud of, that I made it as far as I did with the shenanigans that I may have or may not have done. Uh, and being able to do that and stay married the whole time, that's a huge, huge thing. And that's probably what I'm most proud of about being able to make it through. So, and what was the last part of the question?
What do you wish people knew about the experience of veterans?
Um, I wish people could get a glimpse of life that they had in their experience throughout the military. I think it's very important for everyone to kind of take a moment and sit down and listen to those stories because it gives you perspective that you may not have had. Like everybody thinks, okay, you know, they're in the Army, they're in the Marine Corps, they're whatever, but that doesn't give you an understanding of what the day-to-day interactions was, and it's different from veteran to veteran. But the most important thing is, you know, to be able to hear those stories. So hopefully in the future, people will support the military, right? I mean, there's been times where the American people have supported the military. There's been times where they did not support the military. You look at our Vietnam veterans, they didn't get the support. They came back and people were calling them baby killers and throwing stuff at them and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff, you know. But like when me and you came back, it's completely different, man. People, you know, they respected us. They treated us different, you know. And I think in part because of those Vietnam veterans, when they came back, they wanted to change, and they helped in that. But you know, that's very important to me, which is kind of why, you know, we kind of started doing the podcast, and you know, that's why we're here, and that's what we're doing is trying to share everybody's story.
All right. Any parting shots? Anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't hit?
Uh, Let me think. No, I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff, but you know, there's a lot of things, and I could tell stories probably for days and days and days, which you've probably heard the majority of my stories, uh, probably 40 or 50 times. But no, to everybody out there, enjoy your time, you know, and for the veterans, you know, be proud of what you did, be proud of your service, whether you did 4 years, whether you did 30 years, whether you know, left on not good terms or whether you retired. Uh, no matter what, you served. You took the time to raise your hand and said, I will defend this country, you know, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know, you're writing a check, you know, on your life, and you gave that, whether you deployed, whether you didn't deploy. But everyone's story is important. Everybody needs to know that what they did was important, uh, for themselves and for the American people. But that would be the biggest thing I have to say. And if you're currently in active duty, man, I will tell it to you like this. The most important thing, and this is after I tell everybody my saying, stay motivated, change your socks, right? Because that's very important. You know, you got to stay motivated. You know, you got to motivate those around you, all those types of things, keep people in the fight. And you got to change your socks, meaning you got to take care of yourself. Uh, you know, when you're on that hike and you don't change your socks, well, you may end up with blisters at the end of the hike. Very important to do that. But you know, analogy for everything is, hey, you got to take care of yourself, right? Mind, body, spirit, the whole thing. But I always say, if you're not having fun, you're in the wrong job. Go do something that you're going to have fun doing. So that's what I have to say for those current military bubbas.
Andrew, thank you for your service and thank you for sharing your story.
You betcha.
All right. With that, we'll say, as a reminder for all of our veterans, if you're struggling and need assistance in any way, please reach out for help. The VA has an incredible resource to assist you in your time of need. You can always dial 988 and press option 1, or you can text 838-255. You can always go to veterancrisisline.net and click on the chat icon. Any of these options will put you in contact with someone that can help you out. One veteran life lost is one too many. We care about you here on the podcast. Everybody, all of all the group cares about you. Please lean on the veteran community. We're here to help. With that, a big thanks for everybody listening and signing off. I guess we'll catch you on the next one. And Andrew, you want to say it?
Yeah, I guess I can say it. Don't forget, stay motivated, change your socks.